For people keeping up with the Enchanted lore, this is not the big video I was talking about in my previous video about the wild robot. I just checked out the amazing digital circus The Mystery of Mildenhall Manor and felt inspired to make this video as soon as possible, even if that meant I had to put off the big video for one day only. I'm glad to say that I saved this intro for the last thing I wrote during my writing process, and it felt like all the points I wanted to make and little secrets I wanted to expose all come out without hesitation because of how confident I was when making this, so please consider subscribing and liking for more as you make your way through this video. Without further ado and without more waiting, I would just like to say that the new episode is personally my favorite and the best written episode out of them all. And I am curious on where they go next and if they'll ever even top this because it's going to be really hard. I'm not even a super fan of the series either. I'm just more of a casual watcher, but this episode specifically has sparked my interest just a tiny bit more. Maybe even just a lot more, actually. Kinger has always been a background character at best for the people to laugh at because of how crazy he is. This episode takes his original characterization and refines it into the greatest character arc in the show. And if you want to fight me on that, please, let's take it outside. Kinger in the first episode is a stereotypical crazy uncle or grandpa that the main character has to deal with. And for what the Amazing Digital Circus pilot was trying to do, it makes a lot of sense why they didn't put too much time into creating unique characterizations for all of the characters. To put it as simply as possible, Kinger is just some insane loner person. As soon as it seemed like I would talk about the first episode, let's move on to the second because there's a bit more to discuss. Kinger has a much more of an A-plot role until Pomni and Gummy Goo get stuck under the map. The thing is that when Kinger has the bucket on his head, he becomes a little bit not like himself. What I mean by this is this specific scene from the second episode.
Well, if worst comes to worst, we could always ask Caine to find her.
I'm more worried she's having another horrible experience. She still seems really upset about what happened yesterday. I don't think she really likes me that much.
It's a lot for anybody to go through. Don't take it too personally. I remember how long it took for you to adjust.
Oh, yeah. I'm surprised you remember that.
Remember what?
Now keep this in mind because I will come back to it in just a bit, but now let's get onto the true peak of this series. Kinger and Pomni are stuck inside the mansion where there is a mysterious ghostly presence thingy among them. Now in this episode, we see Kinger come to his senses more when he's in the dark for an extended amount of time. This is seen near the very end of the episode where Kinger and Pomni have a heart-to-heart and Kinger retells the story of the last moments he got to spend with his wife. And for a show that is all over YouTube Kids, this part personally really got to me, with it directly showing how you have to hold on to the memories before they fade away right before your eyes. Kinger's logic is something that really grounds this episode as a taste of realism and creates a sympathetic side to him that we haven't seen before in any of the previous episodes. The misunderstanding that can now be seen when it comes to the previous two episodes is that Kinger is not some insane lunatic who is on the verge of insanity and abstraction just because that's his entire role in the show, but instead he's actually a broken character who loses his perception of reality when surrounded by bright lights as it blocks some of the only memories he can still remember. Although when he is in the dark, the lack of the bright colors allows him to focus on where his mind currently is, and that's something that is seen in this episode as one of the key messages that you may have missed. Kinger isn't able to express his emotions and how he truly feels when he is out in public surrounded by everybody. But when alone and not being watched by everybody else, he's able to be himself and express his emotions to himself. It's a message on masking and how some people in the light aren't exactly the same person as they are in the dark. Editor Enchanted here, I'm just doing this in one take, so we'll see how this does. I have no script on me, but I was looking back through the episode because I was getting footage for the video, and I actually realized that during the part where Kinger and Pomni are, and all the lights go dark before they meet the mysterious ghostly figure, whatever thingy, you can kind of notice that Kinger is like trying to focus on Pomni a lot more than himself because he's in the darkness. We've established that when he's in the dark, he's like a lot more open and honest with everybody. But the thing is that during this scene, he's like trying to distract himself because he doesn't want to open up to Pomni and stuff like that, which I thought was pretty interesting and kind of adds on to what I was saying here. Hopefully this wasn't like a really awkward time to be putting this in, but just wanted to put this out there. Now, to further communicate this, I talked about the second episode of the show and how it has some ties with this new one and something that we didn't pick up on until now. Now, I showed you this scene.
Don't take it too personally. I remember how long it took for you to adjust.
And to break it down more, Kinger expresses himself by having the bucket on his head, which compared to earlier when he didn't. He brings up how he remembers the first day Ragatha got there and how long it took for her to actually adjust, which is completely out of character for him. This goes deeper when he lifts up the bucket off of his head after Ragatha comments on how she's surprised that he remembers that, and as soon as she does that, Kinger tilts the bucket off his head and says, "Remember what?" which draws home how this scene was a foreshadowing the entire events of the next episode, and we just had no clue whatsoever. Lastly, Kinger's characterization is a step forward when it comes to the Amazing Digital Circus's method of storytelling, and proof to us that Glitch knows what they're doing and is not going to let us down or have to dumb down the show for the convenience of kids, because this episode is truly special and giving impressionable people the right ideas. This also means that there is a possibility that there is more foreshadowing that we have just missed during the previous episodes that may come back for whenever the next one comes out, which may relate to some new characters or some old. To recap this video, keep in mind the next episode for some deeper meanings on why the characters do what they do, because now that Glitch has more funding and more writers, we may see more with the old characters, like how they turned Kinger from a crazy person to a broken person by revealing his past and connecting motifs of light and darkness into it to drive the plot home, while also leaving room for more that we may have missed and haven't picked up on yet. Also, if you didn't notice, the thumbnail for this very video is also a metaphor, with the broken side being in the dark and the crazy side being in the light to match what this video is going for. I would just like to wrap this up with my thoughts on the episode as a whole. I think it's the best because of how deep it goes, but I also think the zooble stuff is really interesting and something I want to see more of, just like more of the Kinger stuff. I hope this is not the last time that we see Kinger being a very open and honest character. I think they have some really interesting characters and know exactly what the fans want and don't want out of the show in the long run, which leaves me excited for what else they can do with the show, which is built off of the creativity and the minds of some genius people. And if anything is going to make me excited for the next one, it was definitely this masterclass peak of an episode. And for the record, this is probably the only episode as of right now that I would consider rewatching because of how much I enjoyed it and how much I think it's just like this actual piece of art. I would just like to say that I do actually feel passionate to explore some of the themes Zooble creates in the newest episode, and also to hopefully draw some sort of conclusions on what this can possibly mean for episode 4 and so on. Because although it's a B-plot, there is still a lot to dive into that isn't a part of the immediate obvious. So what is the immediate obvious, you may ask? Well, that's pretty easy to pick up on. That is that you should subscribe and like and comment right now, but also that Zooble's character arc is starting to form into a subject of bodily issues, specifically depersonalization, derealization disorder. But for the sake of this video, I'm just gonna refer to it as the disorder at hand. As clearly seen in the video and expressed by Zooble herself, she has tried to make herself comfortable in the body she was given by switching stuff out for newer parts, yet still nothing fits what she was wanting. This makes sense when Zooble was a real person with a name and a life, yet now she has lost all of that, and no matter what, she can't come to terms with her new body. Now, as I said, that's the obvious side of things. That is fully explained by Zooble herself, and even set up in the first episode with the fact none of them can remember who they were before they got there. Especially, it's an interesting choice for Glitch and Gooseworks to be specifically giving this disorder to Zooble when all of them don't remember who they originally are and are physically aren't in their bodies. Zooble on the outside, though, is much more unorganized than the rest, with a bunch of different parts that create something in the end. So now we have our baseline for what is happening with Zooble. This disorder kinda explains itself, but the actual meaning of this disorder itself is that it makes someone feel like they're not in their body, which pushes them away from reality. Zooble is pushed away from reality, or should I say pulled away from reality, when Caine or whoever mysterious person is behind all the digital circus pulled her in, making her lose her perception of reality, but also who she actually is, which is why we have the therapy scenes in the third episode.
They're here to ground the characters as people who were kidnapped from their own lives, because when there is so much cartoony and bright colors, if the show isn't reminding you that it isn't a normal kids show, you'll forget the dark reality of how everyone got to the circus in the first place, and how progressively insanity is growing on each of them. I would just like to say as well, I dedicated a section to the thumbnail in my previous video, so this thumbnail was drastically improved by these two people on screen and tries to represent the bright colors of the show along with the darker and more isolated tone as the characters are blurred and are unsaturated. I also made the isolated text have no inside to make the words feel more empty to really draw home what I am getting at with this video. Now that we're done with the face value of everything, let's dig past that and explore the true meaning and themes of all this. Zooble's struggles are related to real-world issues when people don't feel comfortable or protected in the body they are in, and there are a bunch of ways these people can get helped out. Zooble is a literal interpretation of that since she's literally not in her body and not associated with reality anymore. What's good about this is Gooseworks has full control over the story and will be able to probably ground Zooble more of a character, like how the show expanded on Kinger in that episode. This one was a little bit of a tease for what is to come. To center this more on the inner workings and to make some bingo cards for what the next episodes will be like, Zooble's disorder will most likely grow when she continues to fall down the path of not knowing who she is. This could lead the show into showing the progression and possibility that the show might tackle more themes like depression, as Zooble can never get what she wants because nothing fits her needs. This could also lead into two different futures, one being that Zooble will eventually be encouraged to find the love inside of her body, because no matter what, at the end of the day, everyone is beautiful and deserves to feel at home with themselves. The second possibility is that Zooble will go through some changes, meaning that they might be able to find her a new body, which will make her happier, or maybe even figure out a way to escape the circus and allow them to return to their real lives, which will make Zooble feel at home once again. The storyline tackles a lot about isolation and gives a reason to why Zooble doesn't want to go on the adventures. It's pretty smart to introduce this because the show could have easily fallen into a place where they are only trying to be mature for the sake of being mature, when a lot of the jokes and especially the animation would cater towards kids and less adults. Thankfully, the amazing digital circus makes sure no one feels left out when it comes to the story as a whole. Grounding a show that could easily be marketed towards babies is genius and shows on its own level how smart they're able to intertwine messaging and elements of the story that can run miles compared to stories that can barely even get off the ground without being the most standard things ever. Something I think about is how powerful animation truly is, and Glitch knows this. In a world where animation is dwindling down to a specific demographic, creativity and messaging is lost. Like if you compare something like Inside Out 2 and The Amazing Digital Circus versus Despicable Me 4 and Kung Fu Panda 4, which ones are you going to walk out of and have it stick in your head longer and allow you to think about how you can apply its messaging to yourself and the way you live your life? I don't like to make fun of people, but if you choose Kung Fu Panda 4 and Despicable Me 4, that's fine, but that clearly states a lack of knowledge on what good messaging and storytelling is, and once again, that's fine if you don't care about messaging and just want laughs. Make sure to look out during next episodes, because I'm sure we're going to be getting a lot more backstory and more in-depth analysis of each of the characters as they go on. No matter what happens with the character, I'm excited to see where things go with the show and what other things they will be able to tackle with the extremely unique characters, including Kinger and Zooble. Now, I wanted to explore a different topic instead of you were all expecting, which is the insert character name here is not insert insult here, he's/she's/theirs, insert true statement. Because Caine is not done developing as a character, and I wanted to spark up a new idea of if and when Caine can or will abstract, and what that can possibly mean for everyone trapped in the digital circus. There are numerous times where Caine shows signs of insanity during each of the episodes. Numero uno. Caine's maniacal laughing. Now, after rewatching all the episodes again for this video, it's come to my attention that Caine is someone that we know barely anything about, because he's barely involved with the episodes. Yet he is one of the most recognizable faces in the entire show. On the base level, Caine is the ringmaster who creates the adventures. He has a really outgoing personality and seems to love what he does, but at the same time he seems insecure about what everyone thinks of his adventures. I want to bring up this scene where Caine starts laughing in the first episode of the show. This right here. Pretty simplistic of a scene, right? I mean, it's him just laughing. The reason I bring this up though is because why was this necessary for the show at all unless it meant something different? The people over at Glitch at the time of making the pilot were not the wealthiest they are, which means that when it came to full-length animation, they would have to cut some corners unless something really needed to be included. What I propose with Caine's laughing is that it's an extremely early hint of his descent into insanity, and is a tease to what abstraction is. I'd also like to say that I'm not stupid. This part is 100% intended for comedic effect because it's a joke that comes out of nowhere and just cuts off randomly. Although funny, I would like to remind people that hidden details aren't always the little references in the background or of a scene of some cryptic reverse dialogue a character says. A hidden detail can simply be how a character says a line and trying to understand its purposes of why it's there, as a lot of foreshadowing is created using that technique. Psst, hey, it's me, Enchanted. I don't know where I am, but if you want to help me find a way out, this flashlight I have is powered by likes, comments, and most importantly, subscribes. So please hit all of those buttons if you're enjoying the special so far. I'm trying to hit 20,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so thanks everyone for the immense support, and let's get back to the video. Numero dos. Caine deletes Gummy Goo.
Wait, what?
How tragic is this moment? I feel like Pomni finally finds someone that she can rely on to get through her mental breakdowns, and just like that, he's gone. Now, I know you're thinking, how does this relate to Caine when this is most definitely referring to Pomni or even Gummy Goo? Well, frankly, that's pretty easy to explain. During my research for this video, if you haven't caught on yet, each of the sections in this video is about each episode, as the previous section is about episode 1, and this one is about episode 2, and I promise you won't guess what I'll talk about next. So anyways, during my research for this video, I came across a post on Reddit by comicbookgirl39 on r/theamazingdigitalsura. Although I like to create my videos based on my own noggin's thinking, I couldn't resist but to share what this is implying, because after reading it, it fits nicely with what I have to say. Let me read this out for you. Theory: Caine made this face because he accidentally deleted a human before. I think the reason Caine doesn't let NPCs in is because of some sort of mishap. I think at one point Caine allowed an NPC to live in the circus, and at one point he had to delete it and got confused with one of the real characters. He felt bad and banned NPCs from entering the circus to make sure it never happened again. It's just a theory, but I think it's why Caine doesn't let NPCs in. Now, I personally really like what is said here. It goes back to the first episode and his maniacal laughing because it's clear something is wrong. Caine says this,
"But if I start losing track of who's a human and who's an NPC, who knows what could happen?"
Now he's talking in a way that's a hypothetical scenario until he gets to the point where he says, happen, and he freezes as ominous music starts playing, and the scene gets dark. Although talking like it's a hypothetical, this one frame proves that this may actually have happened. Right afterwards, he stays in that position while Pomni is laughing and then vanishes because he wants to go get water. There is definitely something more here, and although I don't like to go full film theory on this channel, a theory or two to prove a point is okay in my book. Numero tres. Therapy. To tie all of this together, we have the infamous therapy scene in the third episode, which has sparked some character arc for Zooble, but also secretly Caine too. Let me roll the clip so you can see what I mean.
That'd be...
Whose therapy session is this again?
Oh yeah!
There is a piece of this puzzle we don't know yet based on the clip, but there is so much to discuss. We don't know exactly what abstracting looks like, but we know what it turns out to look like after it's happened. Caine directly says that it's
the only thing I'm good at, and
this leads him to abstracting because he himself is losing sight of his purpose in the digital circus because Zooble exposed what everyone thinks of his creativity. Now, I know abstraction is a big maybe for this, but let's be honest. We haven't seen people abstract, but we have seen what it leads to. Who knows if each of them can abstract in a different way, like how people react to trauma in different ways. If Caine abstracts, it could lead to the deletion of the whole digital circus and the end of everything we know inside of the computer. Now, all of this leads to whether Caine can abstract or not. And I think the answer after all of the different clues we have gotten is that yes, it is 100% possible that he can abstract too. Only time will tell when episode 4 and episode 5 and whatnot come out, so we can see if there are any more hints towards what Caine is and how insane he might actually be. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment what your Halloween costume is or was.
I'm pretty sure you're going to like a lot more of what I have to say if you like this one. Let me know any other things you noticed in the Amazing Digital Circus 1, 2, or 3, and let me know if you want more content just like this, because I would happily make more. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm Enchanted. Bye.